Yo, 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 what's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Nick the Great coming at you with another live. You already know if you're new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. To all the returning friends and family, you already know it's peace and blessing. I'll give y'all some time to tune in case these notifications ain't go out. Apologies for the slight wind you might hear in the background. Out and about right now, but James number 8, what's going on, my guy? Hope all well with you, my guy. Hopefully you and the family holding up well with everything that happened recently. Um, like I said, bro, we always here just in case of anything. First things first, you already know. Hopefully everybody having a blessed and productive Thursday. Hopefully everybody smoothly was able to get through their work day. Hopefully your kids is able to get through the school day. For those in the city, hopefully y'all been keeping yourselves warm. Weather been kind of mixy in the nighttime, but one thing you don't want to risk is getting too sick or getting too under the weather. So hopefully y'all been keeping yourselves warm and bunchy. Last couple nights we've been getting cold and wind, but again, try to keep yourself as healthy as possible. I know it's been back and forth weather changes, but you know, hopefully we'll get to that consistency and you know, be prepared for the winter. Geraldine, baby. Appreciate everybody that tuned in Monday for the conversation. No, that was Tuesday. My bad. Appreciate everybody that tuned in Tuesday for the conversation. Definitely hit some great points. Frugal, baby. We definitely hit some key points. And, this is why it's always important to have these talks regardless. And that's what we need to stand on, at least till we could get the message out. And at least until we could reach the way we need to reach, you know, and reach those who might actually need it. But for those that missed it, y'all can definitely catch the replay. Title, clear as day. Might not be too crazy on this tonight, but I do want to tackle some of the situations. Now, title clear as day. Degeneracy in the community. What do I mean by that? I know some probably are lost, some are probably confused, some probably don't even know what we're talking about, but I'm gonna get down to it. Things that we have always talked about, things that we see on a daily basis, things that now it's to a point where you're gonna have to actually start standing on business. Now, 22, what's going on, my guy? Now, you know, we all know what degeneracy is. And if you don't, I'd advise you look it up. Some of the degeneracy we see in the community is what I speak about from time and time and again. And the first call of order is the kids. There's degeneracy in the community involving the kids. Now, let me explain. For prime example, there's some of these young ones out here who are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You know, they living by the rules and regulations of the households that they stay in. A lot of them are keeping themselves busy or keeping themselves out of trouble. And some of these people actually have, they have programs and other activities even after school that keep them busy and keep them away from the streets, keep them away from, you know, turning down the wrong path, basically. Chrissy, baby. Now, for those kids, they're good, because again, their parents, whether it's single parent or not, have them included in activities that again is going to keep their mind stimulated, keep it sharp, and just give them better options and give them different aspects of, living life, which is good, because honestly, if you wanted to take a look at certain things, some of the other young ones who are out and about in this world now, they have the life expectancy of 18 and 25 at best. And I say that because some of them really don't care. Some of them are really already out there crashing out, taking penitentiary chances. No child should be trying to take a penitentiary chance or mess themselves up when they have still so much time and so much to give. Some of these kids are out here robbing, assaulting, stealing. Some are even unaliving people. And I think that, again, that's part of the degeneracy in the community, is that you got some of these young ones out here, they're not being properly supervised or taken care of. So for some of them, their options is going to be, I got to get something outside the streets. Dee Dee, baby. Mountain girl, baby. And I think that's a problem. It's a definite problem because, again, we cry about certain things in our community, but in the same token, we're not correcting some of the problems that could be corrected. The problem is we're not holding the people accountable in our communities. The degenerate parents who don't want to take care of their young ones, we're not holding them accountable. We're not putting them on the hot seat when we know we should. And again, that's a problem. Because again, if you are allowing your child to be out all hours of the night, hanging with all groups of people, not fully watching what they're doing, yeah, that's a problem. And that at some point, your child will start being a degenerate. If you're not properly schooling them on certain things, trust me, they're going to go down that wrong path. And that wrong path might be a path that will mess their lives up. Like I said, who wants to spend almost part of their teens, or if not, damn near their whole teens and part of their adulthood locked up in the system? Serious, baby. See y'all up in here. See y'all up in here. That's what I was saying. Like, we are not holding parents accountable for the actions of their kids. I can remember at one point in our community, we used to do that. We used to hold certain ones accountable. If we knew there was abuse going on in some of these households, we would take the right steps and we would actually try to make things happen for the betterment of that child or the children at hand. So, that's something to think about and something to look at. Why are we not holding these parents accountable that don't want to take care of their kids? We have come to a conclusion, or we have come to a state now where, like I said, we don't care. Seems like we don't care anymore. If it's not involving you directly, oh, we don't care. But ain't that a degenerate mindset to not care? Like I said, you got these young ones out here, they being very disrespectful towards adults, even elders. Some of them are attacking elders and they're attacking older folks. And again, we wasn't allowing a lot of that back in the day Because the minute a child thought to rear up, didn't matter if it was our child or not. We knew how to take care of whatever. And we also knew how to take you to your parents when it was all said and done. You know? James, what's going on, my guy? I see them coffee cups in the chat, man. Oh no, 22, I know. But that's the problem. At one point we was able to identify things and we was able to just do what we needed to do. Because again, it was about trying to keep structure and order in the community. But see, then again, everybody in the community knew each other. Everybody was knowing their neighbors, knowing who was who, and knowing what to look out for. You know, but it don't seem like that no more. And again, that is a sad outlook. It's a sad look because in the long run, again, the things that some people be complaining about could actually be stopping, or we could actually be suppressing. We don't think about that though. Like I said, some of these children out here being very disrespectful, getting out of pocket, and some of them are putting themselves in a position to where they're going to set themselves up for two possible futures: untimely passing, or you're going to be doing some stiff time in jail. And for what? Like I said, some of these youth, they have golden opportunities to be something in life, but some of them are choosing not to because again, they following behind the quote unquote gang gang. Some of these kids are joining gangs, prime example. And you wonder how is that happening, but it's a two-way street. It's the gang's fault for allowing these young ones to be a part of it or be around it, but it's also the parents' job to make sure their children are not getting into those forms of activity. Diamond baby, see y'all up in here. See y'all up in here. If y'all just tuned in, make sure y'all hit that like button. I think that's a problem again. How can you overlook certain scenarios when it's coming down to your children? Like I said, these young ones are not being taught respect and manners. They're not being taught how to conduct themselves in certain scenarios. Like I said, and this is things that you see even on a regular. Prime example. I've been on the train certain mornings, especially during the school year, and you've had these young ones that have been on the trains, on the buses, whether they heading to school or wherever they heading to. And some of them have been, again, outrageous. Not just with their behavior, but with their mouth. I can remember one morning a lady I could remember I told y'all that a while back too. The older lady was upset because she's sitting on the bus with kids, and these kids, some of them got their pants well below their butt crack. So my thing is, how are you going to school with sagging pants? How you going to school like that every day? How could you think to walk around with your drawers showing basically? And sometimes you're gonna be in front of people. There's people that are sitting down. Nobody wants to turn around, look, and have to see boxes or briefs hanging out in the open. Like I said, one lady had to school these young ones. You know, you're sitting over here playing with your peeps on the bus, knowing the bus is a little crowded. But my thing is, you in front of people, you would want to pull your pants up. Anita, baby. And that's what I'm saying. It's things like that. making sure that your children are dressed properly, making sure that they, you know, holding themselves accountable, but also being responsible for themselves. But here it is, the lady had to tell this young boy to kindly pull his pants up. And I don't blame her because, again, you're sitting here, you're on the bus, you're waiting to, you're waiting to get off or you're waiting to get to your destination. You don't want to see nobody with their drawers out right in your face, you know. And then instead of just, saying, you know what, you got it, and fixing yourself, no, you want to get mad. Oh, why you looking at my ass for? Why you doing this for? Why you worried about that old lady? I wanted to get up myself and pop the hell out of her, but like I said, I don't conduct myself that way. I'd rather hit you with logic, you know. And that's the thing. We are not holding even the kids accountable for their actions. Now, one person did jump up and tell them, yo, you need to get up. Like she said, get up and pull your pants up and stop being disrespectful. That lady's old enough to be your grandmother. Would you want somebody talking to your grandmother like that? Oh, no, no, I didn't think about it like that. Yeah, you should think about it like that. Because again, no adult, no elderly should have to tolerate any form of disrespect. In some instances, there are going to be some scenarios where these young ones do end up getting into some form of confrontation, whether it's with people in their own age group or people that might be a little older. And again, because some of these kids are out here blatantly being disrespectful. I'm going to tell you, parents, right now, especially the ones that need to hear it. If you think it's cool for your kids to be out here being disrespectful and saying and doing whatever to people, they're going to suffer some form of consequence. And trust me, you're going to cry later about it. Because again, no child should ever rear their head up or even rear their fist up like they ready to do something. We've seen some stories where these young ones have been trying to be the aggressors, and then when it gets real dangerous and critical, then all of a sudden the parents want to kick. It shouldn't take for your child to get into some form of trouble for you to actually kick. This is why it's important for y'all to teach them manners and respect, especially they're going to be out in the world. When they get older, how they think they're going to succeed in life or do anything in life when, again, there's no respect. You probably done burnt bridges with people who could help you get into these good places. And that's why I said it's critical that people start thinking that. You know, some of your children are going to end up doing something that, again, is going to cost them their life on either angle. We've had stories of young ones being involved with robberies, home invasions, and if they didn't get arrested and end up doing some form of time, they ended up not making it home. And again, that should be every parent's worst fear is your child not coming home. I don't care how much of a degenerate you might want to be. Nothing is worse than losing your flesh and blood. So again, this is why I say to some of y'all, start talking to your kids. Start breaking down the things you need to break down. Don't wait until it's too late. Because once it gets to a certain extent, can't do nothing. Or they gonna not really listen because again, you want to instill something now that you should have instilled in them well before time. Penny, what's going on, my guy? Appreciate you for dropping those links, serious baby. Working hard in this damn heater, baby. But yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's important for again you parents to start raising your children correctly. Get them on the up and up. Because I'm telling you this right now. Your child's gonna end up going out there doing something they ain't got no business doing, and they're gonna get themselves hurt. Because again, I can remember back in the day, you know, if we would have thought to get crazy or out of pocket with the elders in our community, we got checked. Even if we thought to talk bad to adults that were parents themselves, we used to get checked. We would get verbally checked, or sometimes we would get physically checked. Either which way, we was going to learn not to be so disrespectful and not to be so out of pocket. It's not like that no more. It's almost in some instances like some adults are scared to correct these kids. And some of them are scared to correct these kids because it's unpredictability when it comes to whoever the parents are. In some instances, some of these kids are not coming from bad backgrounds. They just hanging around the wrong people. That's another thing. Some of them are hanging around the wrong folks. Some of them are involved in too many street politics and activities that again could stunt in their growth. So again, at what point do we start to really make the sudden changes? Because again, our communities could flourish a little bit better and even more fruitful. And if we start getting certain things back in order and balance. See, when there was order and balance, yeah, you might have still heard certain stories here and there, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. Right? Let's keep it real. In some instances, they're building more jails than schools. Why you think some of these schools are being shut down the way they're being shut down now? It's all a part of that plan and propaganda. And since they figure in their eyes that most of these kids won't be attending school like that, or some of them are going to slip through the cracks, we got to create these systems to hold them back. Again, I know in a previous life, we tried to make sure that a lot of these youth wasn't getting into these form of activities. Even if they wasn't all, we still made sure that they had a good head on their shoulder. Because we would sit down and at least try to explain things and break it down to them in a better perspective. We ain't doing that no more. Like I said, it almost seems like some of the adults are scared to say something. I can understand for some because again, it's unpredictability. But for others that go by that code, they are still trying to, sit down and at least try to correct them the way they supposed to. When you start correcting these kids, when you start holding them accountable for their actions and their behaviors, you'll start seeing that certain things will change for the better. Like I said, some of these kids are not coming from bad backgrounds. Some of them are just again playing follow the leader. They see their friends doing something, or they see the people that they hang with doing something. They got to be a part of it too, because they feel if they're not a part of it, then the friends or whoever that they want to consider friends will stop hanging with them or think that they're not cool. But there's nothing cool again about taking a penitentiary chance to where you mess up your life completely. I was looking at a story the other day, and even some of the young adults right now, all wilding. The degeneracy in our neighborhoods and our communities, it's not just all on the young folks. We got some older folks out there as well, still moving like they're in their teen stages. And I would say that for these people that need to hear it. How many times you gotta go back and forth to jail before you realize you're wasting a lot of precious, valuable time you could have been using to grow and elevate and build a better future for yourself. And I think that it is, again, important that we start showing them something better. And for some that need to hear it, if you look at some of the scenarios that have taken place already, it's not a good look. Not a good look at all. Prime example. You don't want your child between the ages of 12 to 15 getting in trouble or ending up having to do some real jail time. And for something that could have been avoided. Because in some of these states, they not playing. They don't care how young you are. If you did something that was a complete violation of the law, you're going to face that time. And to be quite honest, some of these youth are not, I'm going to say damn near all the youth are not prepared or not ready to be behind some wall 23 hours out the day. Being inside will definitely change your mindset. It will. Because again, don't nobody want to be locked up. Don't nobody want to be caught up in a jam and then now it's possible jail time. We've seen scenarios where we had 12-year-olds who have been involved in certain crimes that led to somebody's unaliving. Even if they didn't fully do whatever, you were still a part of the crime. So you're still going to be a part of that assessment. I can remember years back a situation that happened with somebody losing their life. There was 4 people involved. Now they had wrapped up all 3. And the one person that was with them that they had in questioning, they believed he didn't have nothing to do with nothing. But then they had to recircle back. And then it didn't take long for one of them people that was caught up to open their mouths and say that the person they had let go was the driver. Guess what? How much time you think that person got when he got caught? Yeah, I mean, they let you go. But in the same token, you knew you was a part of a situation. It was going to be a matter of time before you get wrapped up. You tried to run, but you couldn't go far. Because again, where you going to go when you don't have no correct funds? Where you going to run to if you don't have a execution plan? You're going to end up getting caught. How much time you think that person got just for being a driver of that situation? Got almost the same amount of time as the person that actually did the shooting. So what does that tell you? You end up being a part of a scenario where somebody loses their life, no matter what part you played in that crime, you're going to jail. And it's not going to be no cakewalks, not going to be no slap on the hand. No. You're going to get, if not the same amount of time, just as much as the person that actually did it. So you mean to tell me, what, you 14, 15? You 9 out of 10 going to spend 30 years of your life in jail for being a part of a crime you didn't have to be a part of? So by the time you got out of jail, you're going to be almost in your 50s. That means you done wasted a portion of your life when you could have been out in the world doing something. Again, this is why it's important. It's important for your parents to really start paying attention. I don't care if you working 1 job, 2 jobs. You still got to remember you got a family at home. You got young ones that are looking up to you. And if you're not doing the bare minimum, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, guess what? You're setting the wrong example, but you're also setting them up for kills. I feel no child under the age of 18 should have to worry about doing real jail time just because. This is why we got to try to balance things out the best way we can. That's part of the degeneracy in the community. Again, we're not holding people accountable for their actions. We're not doing the bare minimum. At best, we're not even doing that. Again, got to start holding these people accountable. Because at some point, I do believe that the community will start reforming and reshaping back to the old ways. Wanna know why? Because in some areas, some people are gonna know people from either back in the day, school wise, or just people that they've been friends with forever. They're gonna end up being in these same spots. And if they coming from that background we coming from, oh trust me, after a while, it's gonna be that. Gonna start holding people accountable no matter what happens and standing on it. Prime example. Some of y'all think it's cool for your kids again to be out all hours of the night, especially during the school year. That's exactly why some of these young ones is getting in trouble now. Because again, like prime example, there should be no reason why your child is out playing in the hallways. If you live in the project, your kids is playing in the hallway all hours of the night, sitting in the hallway all hours of the night, running around the building or even around the neighborhood all hours of the night. Other night, I had to shake my head because it's 3 in the morning. When most people would be home or be relaxing. Here it is, you got a group of kids no older than 12 or 13 riding around on these scooters looking like they ready to get into something. Where are the parents at that you're not checking to make sure your kids is home? Because in that situation right there, prime example, they outside doing what they're doing, not paying attention to mess around and get hurt. Let's not act like it's still not violent crimes happening. Your child could be a part of a violent crime on either side of that spectrum, and that should be scary. Your child could be out there either doing something wrong to somebody, or your child could be a victim. You'll never know. There have been stories where children didn't make it home. Why? Because they was out and about all hours of the night with the wrong people. The people that's supposed to be their friends left them for dead. How does that work? Parents, it's important for you to start going back to the old ways. Let me make sure that these people my children are hanging with ain't into no type of stupidity. Let me make sure that they don't get my kids wrapped up in the wrong stuff. And once you already identify certain things, that's when you sit down and you have that talk with your children. But you're supposed to have your talk with the children way before when. You're supposed to give them the blueprint, what to look for, how to identify who you could put in your circle and who you need to stay clear away from. I believe if you do that, in some instances, these young ones won't get wrapped up as much. These young ones won't be world news, 14, 15, 16, going down for a homicide, going down for a robbery, going down for, you know, physical assault, going down for property damage and vandalism and all those things. That's another thing. Degeneracy in the community. Some of these young ones and some of these older ones, y'all still running around and spray painting and doing graffiti on businesses and vehicles and things of that nature. That costs money. In some instances, that does cost money to have to redo and repaint certain things because y'all want to use all forms of graffiti. You want to use all forms of spray paint that you know for a fact is going to take a minute to get off of these things. Crazy, you know. I can remember last summer I had just avoided some madness while I was coming to work. Here it is. You got a group of adults moving like teenagers, walking around with bags of spray paint, ready to do something stupid. I stopped all of that in one motion. Because before he could even get a chance to get that can out and do anything, I was just like, I don't think you want to do that. Oh, what you mean? First things first is cameras on your head. Second of all, cops is right up the block. You think they not paying attention to you? Look again. And sure enough, if I wouldn't have said nothing, 9 out of 10, they probably would have got wrapped up because the cops was looking at them. You know, that's what I'm saying. You got young adults out here and the young kids out here doing the same exact thing. And that's not just the businesses that are being, you know, tagged up, getting graffiti on it. Nah. You look at some of your buildings, not the commercial buildings, because the commercial buildings, you know, is always going to be security and everything else on staff. But if you take a look at the other buildings in particular, you go on to visit people, sometimes you'll see graffiti from wall to wall, graffiti in the elevator. That technically takes away and it kind of strips down the value of these properties, whether you want to believe it or not. Now, there are some places that are granting permission for actual graffiti artists to do certain things like the murals and things like that. Now, I'm all for that. If you want to do things like that, you're putting up murals or you're putting up designs and stuff like that, that's cool. You know, but everything else, no. It's just nasty work. This is part of the degeneracy I'm talking about. Because when we're not holding people accountable for destroying the places that they live at, that's a problem. And like I said, you know, you got to start getting back to Karen. Got to start getting back to, you know, showing them that things could be different. You know, 'cause like I said, we can't cry, mope about the things in our community when we're not holding people accountable, when we're not pushing the envelope the way we're supposed to push it. Now, I'm not gonna lie. In some instances, even on doing a statistical study, most violent crimes, and I don't care where you resonate at, most of them have gone down. You wanna know why I believe it went down? Because some of these people who were doing most of the crimes are either locked up or some of them reformed themselves. Some of them realized that it's not worth it, especially out here in the city. You get caught with a gun, it's an automatic three. It ain't no 8 months to a year like how it used to be. No, it's gonna be 3 years. Shoot, in some cases you might end up getting five. So if you think it's worth losing a portion of your life just because you couldn't keep it together, sadly mistaken. This is why some people are not resorting to that. Lara, what's going on? What's going on? I see you up in here. No parental guidance or moral conscience. These people are systematically affected by the way they sufficiently protected from the list of things that are not spoken about. That's a whole fact, serious. But see, here's the thing. This is why people got to start coming back to the table. This is why people have to, again, start building and restructuring the community. Because, again, I feel like this. I'm one of those ones. If I feel certain things is out of pocket, if I know your parents, I'm not going to hesitate to correct you if I have to. I done had a few people where it was like, yo, you said something to my son? Yeah. Oh, you good. I'm just saying, like, because he told me. Yeah, because I'm going to tell him. I don't play games. I don't play certain games. If I know your parents, if I see you out here doing something, I'm going to check you. If not, I'm going to check your parents. Because, again, it's some cases where people don't know there's things going on. See, but again, in the community that we came from, even if we thought we got away with certain things, it wasn't going to be for long, because those things would come out. So, for the majority of the time, before it can even get done, your parents already had the information given to them. We ain't doing that no more. Some people can see other people, even the ones they know. Some people see other people's children doing something, they won't blink an eye. They won't even think to say, you know what? Let me make sure, you know, let me make sure that these people know what's going on, so their child don't get wrapped up. But that was the beautiful thing about the community, because again, even if you thought to do something, your parents is already 2 steps ahead, or already had the info, so you know you was going to have to deal with something at some point. The community needs to start holding these parents accountable and responsible for their children, and you parents are going to have to start being responsible and accountable for your children, and you're going to have to hold them accountable. You're going to have to teach them. There are going to be grave consequences behind doing certain things that you don't necessarily have to do. Got to teach them about impulse, you know, having impulse control, because some of them are doing things just out of impulse. So this is where you're supposed to really teach them something. Teach them something for the better. I was saying some instances you're failing the mission at hand, because your mission at hand should make, should be making sure that your children don't get wrapped up in the system, or make sure that they don't get taken up out this earth well before time. So again, when you start making sure and start getting back to watching who your kids hang with, even going to do background checks. You know what? Let me go. Let me go see about these kids' parents. Let me see where this kid come from. Let me go, introduce myself and make sure everything is everything before I allow my child to continue to hang with this person. You know, and it's sad right now because again, there is no parental. It's like there's no parental vision at all in some cases. Like I said, I can understand some of y'all working, some of y'all might be working 2 jobs, but regardless to what the situation is, you always supposed to have a good visual on your child. Supposed to have eyes and ears everywhere. And again, with things changing in the world around us, you will want to start doing that. You know, you want to make sure your child don't get wrapped up in something. Be visual at all times. Be more active and proactive. Like I said, for some of y'all that can do it, get your kids involved in the programs that they still might have left. In some instances, there are some communities that are putting together their own little, you know, after school activities or during the winter activity, which again is good because again, it's keeping some of these kids away from the dangers of the streets. Now, the one thing I will say is how do some of y'all expect your community be in a degenerate state when, again, you're not placing back the resources you should be able to place back? Again, how you want certain things to change within your community, but in the same token, you're being a part of the destruction in your community. Prime example, some of y'all might know people who are getting into certain aspects of that street life, but you're still not holding them accountable. Prime example, if you're not moving in the streets, if you're not in any way, shape, or form down with a gang, organization, or anything along those lines, if you're not tied in or bound into any form of street politics, as a citizen, you should raise your voice. As a citizen, you should stand your ground and not be fearful. Because again, the goal is to try to change things. You know, prime example, we can't change the system that's placed around us. We can't change too many things. The things that we can change, we could change them on our own. But we would have to go back to the way of how things used to be done. Some people might not want to hear it, but I believe that's actual truth. If we get back to holding people accountable for their actions, holding parents accountable for their actions, especially when it comes down to raising these young ones, we would get a better result, or at least start getting to a better result. See, that is the problem. We're not standing up the way we're supposed to stand up as citizens. You know, the hard working, tax paying citizens should not have to worry about certain things. Prime example, how you expect certain things in your community to flourish when again you got people destroying it. You know, some of y'all wondering why some of your communities there's not enough businesses to grant opportunities to those that are desperately seeking opportunity. Again, that's because you're busy destroying your communities from the ground up. Prime example, if something happens and it causes a outrage and a spark of, you know, civil unrest, what you think gonna happen? Like prime example, if you protesting for certain things, cool. But you don't have to take it to a point where now it becomes violent. Now the cops gotta be involved. Like prime example, if you're gonna protest, there's no need for you to be looting and breaking into stores or breaking into establishments, destroying shit, taking shit. Because guess what? That's money that gotta be reallocated and then it's gotta be put right back into the community. See, like some of y'all will cry about the government not supporting us, the government not helping us. But in the same token, how you expect them to help when you're destroying basically where you live at? Think about it. If a business get burnt to the ground, let's say, they gotta have insurance. If they're not a major chain corporation or something along those lines, that's money that gotta be put back. That's insurance money. That's everything that got to be put back to try to rebuild. And it's not easy to rebuild sometimes. And in some cases, guess what? Once you've done that, you think they're going to stay in the communities? No, they're going to leave. So when you start crying about, oh, well, we don't have this, and that's crazy, they closing this down. Yeah, well, that's because they tired of being ripped off. Tired of being ripped off and bamboozled. And it's the truth. They're tired of it. Because some of these businesses take a critical loss at times. Like I said, you coming into these stores, you stealing, you trying to rack up everything out these stores. That's money they got to put back into all of these items. And then that's partial money they could be losing out for that day, that week, or that month. And who money you think is coming? Who you think is coming out of? It's coming out of the taxpayers' money when it's all said and done. It's coming out the people that work there. It's coming out their money. So how is that fair? Exactly, James. That is true. Think about it. Damaging, destroying some of these places. Yeah, their insurance is going to go through the roof. If every couple months these places got to keep either replacing certain things, they got to restructure their business. That's more money being spent. Got to rebuild the business because the business probably, I mean, you got to think about it. They already go through enough because in some of these places, they already have to do renovations. Or they might want to do renovations, make their spot a little bigger, make it more spacious. So that's already money coming out their pockets. But when you got people who are damaging windows, like I said, tagging and graffitiing on these places, you constantly stealing out of these places, you coming in these places, and if you're not stealing, you're just destroying stuff. That's money coming out the pocket. And right now, in our case, I believe the government should be back open. But nonetheless, you think about it, it says a lot. It says that we do need to do better. It's basically a sign right now. And I feel in some cases things are going to get worse before they start getting better. But this is why we got to have these talks. Because what good are you doing for your community when you, again, are part of destroying? You know, insurances would definitely be skyrocketing up more every time they got to fix something, every time they got to replace something. And again, it's not easy. You know, it's not easy for those business owners because, again, they got to go through the ring. Like I told somebody, how you claim you love your community, but you robbing all of these establishments, or you're damaging a lot of these establishments to the point where they are going to start closing down for good. It's bad enough some of these places are going to go belly up, and it's not saying that it's their fault, but it could be scenarios where they can't afford the rent. It costs to be stationary in your businesses. But when you start losing out on money, eventually you start losing out. Like prime example, why you think some of these locations, when it comes to some of these big chains, are closing up? Like some of the Targets closed up. Why you think they closing up for? Because they losing money. You gotta think about it. Target is a well known big corporations. And in some of these places, they're the victims of robbery almost every day. Gotta think about it. If they ain't stealing clothes, if they ain't stealing electronics, they stealing food. Yes, there are some people that, regardless to what, will say, "Oh well, it's just this. They could replace that." Still don't matter. That's still money being sucking out of the company's pocket to replace certain things. You know it's bad when you start stealing food. Like prime example, this government still would have been shut down, right? I believe some of them people would have actually stood on their word about making sure they kids eat. They would have probably ransacked, if not damn near burnt the store down. Just like during the pandemic at one point. Why do you think a lot of these spots they was empty? The shelves was empty. It wasn't just people was mad stocking up on things they didn't need. Some of them was just stealing shit. And now y'all remember some of them videos. You see some of them. You know, and that's the thing. You know, some of these people are going to take a loss because of who they endorse, but then some of these people are going to take a loss because their communities is plucking them dry. Like, think about it. If almost every week there's something on that job being done that shouldn't be done, what you think gonna happen? You know, like I said, they got to replace everything now. If almost every week there's some form of robbery, property damage, or destruction, again, that's money being lost. You know, and you right on that part, James. It is true. You know, some of them are losing just because of, again, who they support. But then you got the ones that are doing right and they still suffering. They're still suffering because, again, you got people who feel they want to rob the places. They don't want to just say, let me take whatever money I got and spend it. I'ma just take this. Some of these people are robbing and stealing so they could go out in the streets and do how they normally do and start boosting things. And again, these are things that you should think about for real. How do you expect your community to do any form of greatness or do any better? When again, look what you're doing. You know, see, like right now, I might have some action, which is what I was saying about adults not making sure they kids is doing the right thing. Give me 1 second, y'all. I might have some action. See, like right now, my fault, y'all. See, like right now, it's 10 o'clock. Still a school night, nonetheless. You know, and here it is. Kids are still out and about, even the youngest ones. And this is why I say we got to start really monitoring what's going on. And make sure they ain't. All right, they kept it pushing. They kept it pushing. But this is why we got to start really doing the necessary things. My fault, y'all. Yeah, all right, they kept it pushing. And they need to start doing that again. And see, I know for some of y'all that watch television, they still say that message. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? I guarantee you half of these people don't know where their children are. The only ones that will know where their children are the ones who are actually doing what they supposed to be doing, guarding and protecting theirs. For the rest of them, they don't know where their kids at, and they don't care where their kids at. The only time they'll care is when something bad happens. This is why I said now, parents, some of y'all again, I don't care if your kids are preteens or teenagers. There should be a curfew. And I think that's what some people need to go back to. Curfew. Start instilling these curfews on these kids and actually live up to it. Because I think that's a problem. That again, we got kids out all hours of the night, past midnight, past 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. There's nothing good in these streets after a certain time. Like I said before, your children could be victims. Your child is not that strong. Your child can't defend off of grown-ups. So again, the only way they'll be able to fend off adults and anybody else in certain scenarios is if they got the numbers. But if they by themselves, they don't stand a chance. And I would say this again for some that need to hear it. It really is time for some of y'all to start having more visuals on your children. Find out what they're getting into. Because again, it's 10 o'clock. It's still a school night. And you should be in the house at a certain time. Like I said, unless you are involved in any form of late activities as far as after school is concerned, you're on any type of sports team, things along those nature, or unless you got you a little part-time job or something, kids should not be out at a certain time. They should. And this is what I was talking about as far as some of the degeneracy in the community. Some of you parents are not living up to your expectations. You can't say that you love your kids and you're willing to do whatever for your kids, but you're not checking your kids the way you're supposed to. You're not educating them the way you're supposed to. You're not protecting them the way you're supposed to protect them. But some of y'all will uphold your kids in wrong. Like I was saying earlier, you got some of them that are blatantly rude and disrespectful. But then again, like I said, a lot of these young ones are mimicking what they see at home or what they see around certain parts of their community. Some of them are only being on a certain level again because they're following the wrong people. Kids out all the time, so they wonder why their child is missing. Exactly. Your child end up missing. Your child end up locked up for something that they can't get up out of, or worse. Like I said, you've had stories of kids who should have been in the house who ended up passing away or ended up being lost in the source because again, hanging with the wrong people. I feel for anybody on this level right here. Your friends are not supposed to leave you on stuff. Your friends are not supposed to leave you for dead. And if you're in a situation where they have done that, then you need to evaluate who you really hang with. Because real friends are not going to allow you to crash out. Real friends are going to want to see that you're safe. This is what I'm saying. Now, I just looked at a group of kids just now. Like I said, that should have been in the house. You got two of them that definitely look like they under the age of 10. I don't care. That's what I'm saying. And you got the other two looking like they look like they teenagers. So why the hell you don't got these kids home? Any kid under a certain age, again, should not be out after 10 or 11 o'clock. For what? You know, that's what I'm saying. In some instances, the streets and social media is raising these kids. That's the other part of the degeneracy in the community. We try to overlook it, but we can't. And again, this is where things should change. We should start being better as a community. We need to get back to, again, neighbors getting to know neighbors, parents actually sticking together and actually doing what's needed. But the most important thing, again, holding them accountable, letting them know that when they mess up and screw up, there's going to be consequences. See, but when we don't take our time, when we don't do what's necessary, when again we don't hold them accountable, these are the same repeated results we're going to keep getting. And in some cases, like we was talking about a while back, they about to start making you parents feel it. You trust and believe they about to start making some of y'all pay for what's going on. I'm gonna tell some of y'all right now, if you don't get yourselves in order and get your kids in order, guess what? That good old government of yours is gonna start getting them in order. And they're gonna make sure you get in order. Why? Because again, same way they would be arresting a child or arresting a teen for something, they're gonna take you in, especially when again you're allowing your children to say and do whatever in these communities. So I feel that's the right thing. If you're being an irresponsible parent, you're being a negligent parent, and if you're not giving a damn about what your kids do, then yeah, you should go to jail as well too. Anytime they do shit that they know for a fact is becoming a menace to society, you should be held accountable. Because what's the purpose of bringing these children into the world if you're not going to raise them properly? I was saying in some instances, the reason why some of these children are doing the things they're doing is again peer pressure. In some instances, some of these people are doing what they're doing because they really are broken, destitute. Some people really don't know where their next meal is coming from. So this is why some of them are doing the things they're doing to try to get money. But if you know, like I know, you taking penitentiary chances regardless, you know? Because when it's all said and done, you're going to be left holding the ball. Nobody else. I know. I should, hood. I'm going to keep talking shit about them damn Lakers. What's going on, my guy? I ain't forget. I gotta rinse your ass up again. My bad. I'm talking all the junk today, son. Yeah, I ain't worried about it. Neither don't me and Hood always do this. Hey yo, Hood, you still owe me a damn Jordan jersey, son. Stop talking. Serious, James, lock the door. Hood can't go nowhere until I get my damn Jordan jersey. And it better be authentified, signed, son. Talking that bullshit. No, but you know, you gotta think about that. You gonna be left holding the ball because you're not getting in control of what you're supposed to get in control of. It's no way. You know, again, 10 o'clock. Your, your kids under a certain age, they should be in the house, not still out and about, not still hanging out, not still playing around in these streets. Because there's nothing good in these streets after a certain time. Real. Like I said, everything's all bread and gravy until something happens to your child, and then what? Then you want to kid. Then you want to start crying and looking for sympathy and empathy. But where's all that energy before that happened? You know, that's what I'm saying. It's not hard to. It's not hard at all to really just structure certain things. You know, again, some of these kids are coming from a messed up family structure, and I could get why in some cases some of these kids are out and about all hours of the night. Because who gonna tell them anything? Who's there to guide them or correct them or again make sure they got a decent roof over their head? And even for the ones that got roofs over their head, you got family members that are barely home or they don't care. This is what you're gonna get. But for the rest of them, it's not like that. Some of them are coming from good households, whether it's one parent or two. Again, it's just about who they hang with. But again, for you parents out there, it's time for that part of the degeneracy in the community to stop. Start raising your kids. Start implementing curfew. Get your kids on course. Angela, baby. You already know if y'all just tuned in, hit the like button. And if y'all new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'll drop this link in case anybody wants to chime in. But this is what I'm saying. Start getting back to having curfew. Because again, there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries and setting rules. That's what kind of governs us even in the community now. Rules and regulations. Some people are going to break the rules because they don't care. But then you're going to have others that, again, they only following the crowd. But again, start implementing these curfews. Start making sure that your children are home at decent times. Make sure that they got homework and stuff done. Especially again, if they are going to school. Make sure that they getting their homework done. I can remember back in the day, if we didn't have homework done or anything, we couldn't do nothing. We couldn't watch TV, we couldn't go play, we couldn't do jack shit. These days, these kids are getting rewarded. They barely doing homework or turning in homework on time. Guess what? They still getting rewards. We couldn't get rewards for that. If we did something wrong or we didn't do what we were supposed to do, we had to suffer the consequences. We need to start doing that more often. Give me 1 second, y'all. But my bad, y'all. Had to double check something real quick. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Kids in this generation are getting rewarded even for bad behavior. That's a part of the degeneracy I was speaking about. But we couldn't get away with much back in the day. And even if we thought we could, it was short lived. But again, there was some things that we just didn't tolerate. We got to start getting back to incorporating, again, curfews for these young ones. For some that are able to do things on a financial tip, y'all gonna have to start coming together, start finding certain things for these youth to do, even if there's not much in your communities for them to do. Put your money back into a pot, and again, see where things could go. There's certain things within your community you don't need the government's help for. And if you are able to contribute or bring something back to the pot, the community pot, then do so. The things that you try to incorporate, the things that you bring up, it could definitely change the course of things. We start restructuring the most important assets in our community and start restructuring the family growth. You'll be surprised what could actually change. Parents are not being parents no more. And I'm not saying no, but there are some out there who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And again, your kid will fall into that form of degenerate behavior when you're not paying them any attention. Like I said, if your child is 12 years old and still out past 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, where you're, where are you at? And why is your mindset not thinking to say, let me make sure my child is home? Let me make sure my child is not getting into nothing. Let me make sure my child actually is home safe. See, again, for some, it's all fun and games until something bad does happen. And then when it happens, who can you blame? And that is facts. Who can you blame when you're not taking the necessary steps you should take? Telling some of y'all is about to start getting real dangerous out here in these streets. It's already dangerous, but it's about to get even more dangerous. Do you think your child should be a part of that suffering? Like I said, we know in some instances, some of these ones are coming from broken backgrounds. Broken backgrounds that's including drug use and abuse, alcoholism, and all of that. In some instances, some people are uh going through sexual assaults, even molestation. You know, there's a lot of different factors to why some of these kids are out in the streets. But then again, if you think about it, that's a bad look, especially for the young queens out there, because no child, no young queen should be out past a certain time, especially again when they're young. Y'all remember a while back I was telling y'all about a situation about a Rico that happened, and this was involving kids and sex trafficking and all that. That still happens. And for some of y'all, I'm gonna say this again. It's important to make sure that the fathers are involved. Because again, no young child should be out there all hours of the night. No young queen should be out there all hours of the night getting into all forms of the wrong activities. This is how teen pregnancy is still a thing now. This is why the numbers is going up. This is why the parents are getting younger and younger now. Because there's nobody guiding them. Nobody is telling them and informing them on the things they need to inform them on. So what you think is happening now? And in some cases, some of these people are runaways. And I'll be honest with you, some of the runaways are coming from these quote unquote adoption agencies or group homes. And you got to think, in some instances, what is going on behind scenes or behind closed doors that these people are running away from home? Or while some of them are running away from these group homes and these establishments. Well, I said you got to delve deep into these scenarios. Because, prime example, if there's a child that's in a group home, obviously they're in a group home for a specific reason. But it should be no reason or no way that somebody, even in that scenario, should be able to run away and get lost out there in the streets. This is a dangerous, treacherous game that we in right now. But again, some that need to hear it. If you got a good baby father or a good man or somebody who is willing to take the reins and step up, start allowing them to be a part of these kids' lives the way they need to be. Because it is important. If we want to see some of the degenerate situations and behaviors become a thing of the past or at least get suppressed, we got to start moving together in unity, and we have to start moving accordingly the way we're supposed to. Got to start holding the people within our communities accountable for some of their actions. There's some scenarios that would be at a lower number if people would rise up and stand up and stop being so scared. You work hard for your money. You shouldn't have to worry about possibly being robbed, unalived, severely hurt. I just heard a scenario about three dudes. They robbed a lady on a train the other day. I think it was a violent attack, but this is my thing. You ain't even have to do that. You know, that's bum activity. I'm sorry. It's bum activity when you could think instead of me getting up to go apply myself to something, I gotta rob you and take something from you. And one scenario was a group of people that they beat up a dude for, and this is shit that used to happen back in the day. They beat the dude up for a book bag, a watch, and something else. That's bum activity. I don't care how you look at it. You could be in your feelings about what I said. It's true. That's bum activity. You want to rob somebody and then you're not even getting but the bare minimum. What's the purpose of doing that? Because again, you putting yourself out there with a target on your back. Because at some point, you're still going to get locked up for the crime. I don't understand why some of y'all think you're going to be able to do crimes and think you're going to fully get away with it. No, at some point, you will get caught. And some people end up getting caught sooner than later because they let their greed get in the way of everything. Like, prime example, imagine you decide to go out and rob somebody and you don't get shit but $12 and maybe some form of device. That's bum activity. You could have went and worked for that shit. Like I said, it was things that was happening back in the day that is still happening now, but it's getting worse now. And some people again taking penitentiary chances for quarters, for crumbs. Imagine being locked up for 12 quarters. Again, imagine being locked up for 12 quarters. What you gonna do with $3? Like for real. What you gonna do with it? So you basically took a penitentiary chance for $3. Some people took a penitentiary chance for less than that. Some people did a robbery and didn't get shit. That should tell you something. At some points, not everybody is going to have what you think they have. And even for the people that work hard for this, they shouldn't have to worry about losing it because you can't get it together. It is time for a change. And if that change don't start now, like I said, at some points, it's going to be more laws passed. There's going to be newer things passed. And at some point, like I said, some of you parents are going to cry. Going to cry later because you might just end up being a part of being in that system that everybody tries to avoid because you're not doing your job and you're not doing your bare minimum. Like right now, with all the buildings that are out here in my community, I would at least guarantee that at least 5 to maybe 10 of those buildings, I guarantee you there's a bunch of young kids running around the hallways, hanging in the lobbies, smoking and doing all sorts of things that kids shouldn't be doing. These kids shouldn't be worried about trying to be living a fast life and living an adult life before they time. That's why I said there's degeneracy in the community. And until we start standing up and holding those accountable for the error of their ways and the crimes that they have committed towards the land and towards the community, we ain't gonna get far. And we're gonna be doomed to suffer the same things over and over again. It is time for a change. So this is something that should resonate with the people again tonight. I wasn't gonna hold y'all too much. I believe the link is still in the chat in case anybody wanna chime in, but if not, I'm not gonna hold y'all all night. I just wanted to definitely bring this conversation at hand. And I'm gonna do a part 2 to this. Usually you're gonna get a recap or you're gonna get something new added to the element. And again, it is time for things to change. We know there's certain things that have already been established and have been established for well before we got here that we know we possibly can't change. But for the other things that we can, it's time for us to do it. It's time for us to stand up and be a better community. We got to start stepping up to the reins. We got to start pouring back into our communities what we're desperately needing. And if most of these people would come together in that unified form and just take the preventive steps, we could get there. You know? But yeah, I'm definitely gonna recap on this situation. And for those that are celebrating birthdays this week and this upcoming weekend, we did not forget about you. May y'all enjoy y'all special days. Stay blessed, stay vigilant, stay observant at all times. Keep creating memories and enjoy every moment of life because life is not promised to anybody, you know. And if again you able and blessed to see another year, give your praises where it's due. You know? But definitely keep creating memories and enjoy your special days. And we definitely are gonna retouch on this conversation. I think it's important to keep having these talks and discussions because again, at some point, we can get to something greater. We can end up restoring and reestablishing some of the things that we are missing or that we desperately need in our community. But again, we have to take action. We have to be able to stand up and stand firm in what we believe. And if we believe that things can change for the better, then yeah, we're gonna have to start unifying. But the best way to do that is start holding people accountable. Start holding these parents accountable for not raising the ones who are out here wilding and being disrespectful. And we need to start holding accountable the people who are destroying the basic businesses and the basic opportunities for those in these communities. There's no way you're going to say we don't have nothing, but you're destroying everything that comes into your community just because you feel you can do it. But yeah, something to think about though. And let's see, tomorrow's a good Friday. I could be back tomorrow, probably tomorrow early. I'll be back early tomorrow night. Light conversation. Probably might do some music. But yeah, hopefully somebody did get something out this message. And again, appreciate everybody who's been a part of the build, still becoming a part of the build. And yes, still gonna have these conversations. Doesn't matter if it's every day or every other day. But just know, when you see me coming on, we gonna talk about it. And we definitely gonna have some fun too in the midst. So, but the one thing I will say before I do get up out of here is again, there's so many different things that we could definitely be doing to possibly make things better or make things a little bit more brighter. But again, we have to start standing on these things. And we can't be scared. And that's the thing. When there's fear involved, there will be things that don't get done. When there's doubt, there's things that won't be done. But when you have strong presence, strong numbers, strong unity, and strong perseverance, there's nothing that is going to be out of arm's reach. We can make things better if we choose to do it. And if we do choose to do it, let's do it the right way. You know? But again, appreciate everybody that took the time out tonight. And like I said, I will definitely have this conversation again. The link will be pinned just in case if anybody want to chime in. Like I said, it's always good to get different views and aspects of how we could change things or how we could make things better. And I think it's about that time we keep doing it. So yeah, let me get myself up out of here. Time for me to be an adult, y'all. Time for me to be an adult. But yeah, I'll definitely be back tomorrow evening. And we gonna definitely have a good one. So hopefully y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evenings. Top of the morning to those overseas. And I already know it's afternoon in Japan or whatever. So hopefully y'all uh having a great one. And again, I need my lottery numbers for tomorrow today. But let me get up out of here. If y'all was new to the channel, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Shout out to the replay gang. Shout out to the Shadow Mafia and the Shadow Babies. Y'all know what it is, baby. For everybody that was in attendance tonight, y'all already know that love is love and it'll be reciprocated as such. I don't know how to be fake. All I'm gonna do is keep it real. That's all I'm gonna do is keep it real topics and real bills. And again, I'll see y'all tomorrow evening. And we definitely gonna have a good one. So, y'all stay safe, keep that third eye open. And until the next live, we out of here. Peace and blessings.